Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rancourt.
I'm Kim Crumbly, and together we are Counselor Accents.
Kim, this one's going to be a different episode because, we're recording this intro after I've done the podcast episode, and it was very different because I didn't have you.
Well, and it's because as soon as my back was turned, I
scheduled every podcast episode I could think of.
I know it was very hurtful, and I can't imagine this is going to be any good. I can't imagine without me.
I was finally able to ask all the questions I want to ask. I was finally able to say the things and be funny on my own.
Oh, and you failed miserably.
It was a breath of fresh air.
Oh,
no, actually, I was nervous the whole time because I feel like you have made me so dependent on you on purpose.
I have. It's like a cult. You're in my cult.
So the whole time I was nervous, looking what would Kim do? I looked down at my bracelet that says WWKD to remind myself.
You went on. But really, I did not know you were doing this because, it's my own fault. Because on a whim, as you know, I decided to, you know how bad I am about scheduling anything and writing it down in the calendar, the Carol Miller calendar.
No.
And so the Saturday before last, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm going to go to Disney World. Hadn't been in 9 years, but we had just had COVID coming out of the bunker, as you know. And I'm like, we're going to go to Disney World. And I up and find a place and buy the tickets. And then I realized all the things that were supposed to happen that I had not put in the calendar. So
not only that, but the number of hours I spent counseling you post booking, because
you're a Disney queen.
Well,
you are a Disney queen.
I used to be. I haven't been in quite a while.
I hear you.
Yeah. So you called me, did we pick the right place? And you didn't.
You went, no.
But it'll work. It's okay.
And I didn't know how everything had changed. I thought we'd go to Disney, we go to the Magic Kingdom. Well, no, you don't get to say where you're going to go. They'll tell you where to go. And I thought, hey, nobody's going to be there in February. So no, everything was booked. We ended up going to Epcot every single day. So anyway, it was still wonderful. We had a great time, but I did forget that we were speaking at a conference. That's awful. But in my excitement. And so may I share this before we go into this wonderful, lovely podcast that's without me. So we get to Disney. I realize that we have this conference. And so I have got to figure out what to do. You cannot move in Disney. It is and I'm like, what are we going to do? And my place was, I thought it was minutes away. It was minutes away. I didn't know it was 60 minutes away, 60 minutes away. I still am trying to figure it. So anyway, I thought, what am I going to do about the conference? And so I just okay, Lord, I got a conference today. How are you going to get me out of this one? And so I looked on Yelp for a good Mexican restaurant. I thought I can plop my blind husband and disabled child in at the Mexican restaurant and leave them for an hour and a half, come back and get them. So I went on, this is a great idea. So I went on, found the number one Mexican restaurant outside the park where it wouldn't be crowded and they wouldn't be pushing them on out. Found said restaurant and drove up to said restaurant, and it is a dive. Do you know what I'm talking about? It looks horrible.
Those are the best places though.
And I thought it could be.
Okay.
And I thought this is going to be great. It looked very sketchy. I'm not sure if the owner was going on Yelp every 5 minutes. So I was like, I am not sure about this because it didn't look, but again, if you came into my neighborhood, to my local dive, and it's wonderful. So you're right. Yeah. I thought this is going to be great. Well, I still don't know what I'm going to do because it's, 15 minutes till conference time. And I look over and I see a Marriott down the road. I take off running running in my Disney ears and outfit. And I go in, and the woman had the least friendly face I've ever seen. Like, her fixed face was her mad face.
Oh,
And so, yes. And so she was on the phone and gave me the finger. And I'm not talking about the middle one. I'm talking about the
you're going to wait.
you're
Yeah.
gonna wait
Uh-huh.
finger. And so I've gotten it. I'm like, if this doesn't work out, I don't have plan B. I mean, I could drag my tail back to the van, and I don't know what I'm gonna do for dinner. I don't know, because I couldn't get a hotspot. So anyway, when she got off the phone and I told her my situation, she was the most pleasant person.
Aw.
So she just like, make yourself at home. And so she wouldn't give me a room, but she did let me go into the breakfast nook.
Okay.
And so I recorded, but it was hotel stuff going on behind me the whole time. I'm not sure what happened. It's like I was like floating above, looking down on myself in this crazy situation. So I came out after an hour and a half, and it looked like both of my family, my son, Clanton, and Philip, had been ran over. They looked like cats that had been ran over. I mean, it was a horrible experience. I don't know if it was an undercover or something that was like a restaurant, but not. I mean, they couldn't get chips. They couldn't get, it was not a good, it was like very sketchy, but we all made it. We all made it. We all made it. So that's a long story that you will probably cut out, but I enjoyed getting to tell that story, said story.
Well, I felt bad for you because I knew that you were juggling so many things that day. Never before have you shown up to a conference wearing a t-shirt, but I was glad you.
And I had been on the ride Frozen, which I did not know was a wet ride. So it's like you've got half the head is wet and spray, got hairspray dry. And it's like, it was interesting, but it happened.
If it's our last time to speak at that conference, we know why. Number one, and number two.
And when you're going on before your bosses from the state level saying, I'm literally at Disney World and supposed to be at work.
Right.
But we're all about that self-care. I had reached that limit where, Well, for 2 years, Clanton's been watching live stream.
Yeah.
On people at Disney. And I thought, we're going. What was so funny was when we got there, he kept watching live stream. Anyway. So tell me a little bit about this new friend of yours.
All right. Well, you really missed out. We ran up on her at the ASCA conference. We were getting ready to present in the room that she had just presented in. And so that was a nice little reunion whenever we got to meet her. What would you call a reunion before it's just a union, I guess? Like, we got together and realized that like she listened to our podcast and we got to meet her.
Not called anything. You met her.
We met her.
We met her.
So I had circled her session as something that we wanted to attend. And so I'm very excited to have her on. Of course, we've already recorded the episode and I know how fantastic she is. So our listeners, even though Kim's not here, you really need to tune in because you're going to walk away with rubber meets the road, things that you can implement now. And it's really 2 podcasts in one in a short amount of time because she went on to really talk about what we can do for families. So it's a really, really good episode.
I'm excited about this because I am just going to get to lay back here and listen and because you've told me how great it is. I mean, you called me and you said this was really good.
Yeah.
And it hurt my feelings. I'm going to be honest with you that you went ahead, forged ahead.
Okay.
But I am excited to get to listen to this as I want to say not a participant, what is it when you're just watching?
Audience member?
No.
Listener?
No, there's another word. And I don't know what it is. I mean, I'll think of it.
Well, to help your feelings,
go ahead.
In my defense, I gave her the option. I said, Kim is not here. Do you want to?
This is only going to hurt my feelings.
Do you want to move forward or do you want to wait until Kim can be here? And she said, you're telling me Kim's not there?
Uh-huh.
Yes, please, can we record? Let's take advantage of this.
So how many podcasts did you do while I was at Disney World?
Quite a few, but I expect our number one status to just keep going up, really.
Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go.
I'm Laura Rankhorn, and I am without Kim today. So it is just Laura Rankhorn with Counselor Accents. So I think that our guest and I will both get a whole lot more talking time today since Kim is not here to hog the airwaves. So Barbara, you have really lucked out in just getting me today. So I want to welcome you to the Counselor Accents podcast. Barbara Truluck, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Well, we are very honored. And Kim really is sad that she had to miss this one because we've been talking about this episode, and we're both very excited about this. So Barbara, we just happened to run into you at ASCA this summer. You were finishing up a presentation in the room that we were presenting in next. And so you were actually one of the sessions that we had circled that we wanted to attend, but we weren't able to because we were doing some last minute stuff for our own session. So when we happened up on your room and got to talk to you, we were like, oh my goodness. Like you're who we've been looking for our whole life. So, and then I emailed you earlier or later in the summer, but I think it went to your spam, but I am persistent. And so I tracked you down and got you.
I'm so glad that you were persistent because it went to my spam, but it was great to meet you at ASCA. And so, yeah, when I was leaving the room and I turned around and I saw Laura and Kim, Counselor Accents, I totally fangirled. I was like, hello, huge fan, love your podcast. So I was honored that, as I was leaving, you said, hey, we're going to reach out to you and get you on the podcast.
Yes. And your topic at ASCA was building a student resilience toolbox. And we knew that was an important topic then, but I don't think we had any way of knowing how very important that topic would be here in the 2021-2022 school year. This is something that I think supersedes school counselors. This is something that whole schools need to get behind. So I'm very excited to jump into this topic. But first, I want to tell our listeners, I want to brag on you for a little bit. You were the 2019 Cobb County Middle School Counselor of the Year. You were the 2020 Georgia School Counselor of the Year. And talk about fangirling. I'm fangirling right now because you were the 2021 ASCA School Counselor of the Year finalist. Oh my goodness. It's like I'm in the presence of greatness. I'm so honored to be with you right now. And you're also a national author. And of course, as we mentioned, a conference presenter. So congratulations on all of these accomplishments.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's been a great journey and truly honored to be a national finalist, amongst such great counselors. And I know Olivia has been on your podcast too, and we love Olivia. So it was great. This past, just a few weeks ago, actually, we were in Washington, D.C. for the gala. And it was so great for the five of us to be together for the first time. Because when we found out that we were finalists and going through the interview process and everything, and Olivia was selected, everything was virtual. Virtual gala last year, and ASCA was so gracious and so wonderful that they actually invited all of the 50 state counselors of the year up for 2021 up with the 2022 counselors. So just so great that ASCA did that, and we were all able to be together up in Washington just a few weeks ago for the gala and the awards.
Oh, that is wonderful. And yes, I'm so glad that they did that and brought you guys on. So you didn't miss out on your year or anything. That's good.
That's right. It's once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm so glad that they did that. And we got to experience all the fun behind that. And they do such a great job recognizing the school counseling profession and school counselors. So it was great.
You are right. I mean, they have just coming off the heels of National School Counseling Week, and just it's like when I first started, nobody knew about National School Counseling Week. I don't even know if there was a National School Counseling Week when I first started, but just the way that that's grown. And I think it's something we need to attribute to ASCA for raising awareness, but it's like everywhere, all over my social media, people that aren't school counselors, but they are educators, they were talking about National School Counseling Week. And I was like, way to go, ASCA. This is because of you guys. So yeah, they're
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Yeah, spotlighting that important work that school counselors do every day.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in and talk about some of the things that you have going on. Like we said earlier, your presentation this summer was Build a Student Resilience Toolbox. And you also have a Stress Buster small group that actually I have on my desk, and I reference it quite a bit because it is such a great program. But you have 900 school counselors nationally who are a part of your Stress Busters for School Counselors program. So why don't we start there? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that program has really grown. It's really the reason that I became a school counselor. Growing up, I dealt with a lot of stress and anxiety. I was that worry kid, and it really affected my achievement in school. I really struggled in school, and it wasn't until later in life when I went to college that I really said I need to find ways to better manage stress. And I did. That's exactly what I did, and started to do so much better academically. And so that is one of the reasons that I wanted to become a school counselor, was to really help my students learn earlier in life. I wish that I had earlier in life, really those stress coping skills and ways to manage anxiety and worry. So I started Stress Busters actually the very first year that I was a school counselor. And I started with one grade level because I was the sixth grade counselor. And I found that a lot of students were struggling with anxiety, and then, asking to go to the school nurse or coming up to the counseling office, or a lot of school avoidance as well. So I really looked at the data and pulled together those students and started that very first Stress Busters group. And because it was so successful in helping achievement and helping attendance and getting these students back into class so they could learn, that I expanded it to 7th and 8th grade. And I turned my results report in at the end of one of the school years, and it was actually my county supervisor for school counseling that said, you really need to present this at the Georgia School Counselor Association conference. So I did. That was the first time I had ever presented, and that was a packed room itself of school counselors just wanting to learn about this Stress Busters intervention in this small group. Well, little did I know that someone from ASCA was at my session. And so after I presented, they called about a week later and asked if I would write an article called Stress Busters for the ASCA School Counselor magazine.
Oh, wow.
So I was really excited and really honored to do that.
Yeah.
After the article published, again, a flood of emails. I had no idea that this many school counselors would reach out to me. It was at least over 200. And I answered that. This was like within the first week or two that the article came out. And I answered every email, and school counselors were asking for the lesson plans and the handouts and everything. They wanted, the materials to be able to duplicate the Stress Busters at their school. So I answered everyone back and sent, as much information as I could in those emails. But then I said, I've got so much, I need to build something that is easier to send out. So that's what I did. I built a SMORE newsletter and put everything in there, the pre-post. I put all the handouts, all the lesson plans. And then as school counselors were emailing me, I was able to send them that. And it was one place. It was a nice house to keep everything so they could have access to it. And then on my bucket list for sure was to speak at ASCA. I said one of these years, I really want to do that. So this past summer, that's what I did. I spoke at ASCA, and I couldn't believe the room. I don't know if you saw how many attendees were in my session, but I know that I made 300 copies of my handout. You know, when you speak at these conferences, you're never really sure if you're going to have
Right.
100 people. So I made 300 handouts for my session, and those were all gone. So I know there was more than 300 people in the room.
Wow.
So, so yeah, that was really great. And just sharing what Stress Busters is, that and the impact of that intervention, and how it really helps students learn ways to calm their mind, to calm their body, to build resiliency to stress, and really empower them to be able to face those challenges that they do, so they can manage their stress and anxiety. But best of all, what Stress Busters does is it builds that resiliency and gives them the confidence to handle any challenges that come their way. And that's a life skill. That's such an important, really just not just right now, but they'll have those skills for the rest of their life.
Well, you're exactly right. And as school counselors, we don't do therapy, whether you're an LPC or not. You don't do therapy as a school counselor. So what we found is doing things like these coping skills, or what Stress Busters is, that covers so many different things, so many different emotions, that you're able to take care of those frequent flyers, or by teaching them stress buster after stress buster. So this is like the heart of school counselors. This is wonderful. And I heard you tied it into academics, you tied it into attendance, which is our language. That's what we have to do as school counselors, is tie it back to the data. So way to go.
Thank you. I love this saying that Allison Edwards, she's an LPC that spoke at one of our professional learning days. And I will tell you, it just really resonated with me. And she says, the counselor is not the strategy, the counselor teaches the strategy.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
And yeah, that's what Stress Busters is. That's what your Coping Skills Cafe that I listen to, that's what that is all about, is we're teaching the students the strategies to really be able to manage their own emotions and stress.
I need to cross stitch that and put it up in my office or something. I don't cross stitch, but I need to learn how just to put that saying up in my office, because it's almost like we can become a habit and a safe place for the students. But if we're not equipping them, then we're really just making them dependent on us, instead of empowering them to figure out, once they're long gone from us, how are they going to take care of the problems that come up. Sounds like this is exactly what Stress Busters does.
Yeah, I love the way you said that. It really is the greatest gift that we our students is teaching them all of those coping skills. So that's what the small group is all about. And it's more than just teaching coping skills. I do want to say that it really takes it to the next level. It's really those students that are really struggling with managing stress, anxiety, those chronic worriers, and that really leads to that school avoidance or, class avoidance. And really that affects their academics. If you're sitting in class and you're reeling with stress and anxiety, you can't fully give yourself to the learning. And that's what I struggled with. So, yeah.
Can you think of a student, we love stories around here. Can you think of a student who comes to your mind about this chronic worrier, and what was the root of it? And can you tell us a story?
So a lot of my students, they have that worry brain, and it's hard to turn off the worry. And so what I teach in one of the sessions of Stress Busters is how to keep a worry journal. And if you're not a worrier, it's hard to understand, but us worriers actually worry about forgetting what we need to worry about. And it really is a thing. So I know that teaching my students how to use a worry journal has been very impactful. And I did have several students that said it helps them so much, especially at night to go to sleep. So I give all of my Stress Buster students a journal, and I teach them at night before you go to bed, write down everything, that you're worried about. So it's nice and safe there. So the next morning you can look at it again and not forget what to worry about. But at night you can relax your brain and be able to go to sleep. So that has been one thing that they come back with. I know that I spoke at a parent education night at an elementary school here in Cobb. And it isn't one of my schools that feeds into our middle school where I am at Palmer. So I didn't know the parents, but I spoke about stress and anxiety and how parents can help their children, manage the stress. And I talked about the worry journal. And about a week later, after that presentation, the mom actually reached out to me and called me and said that learning this skill and that she used it with her own daughter, it was a game changer. She said she's falling asleep at night and it's giving her mind some peace. So love those stories. Love to hear from parents and students about how these little tricks are helping them.
Well, I am a worrier, and I'll worry about things that don't need to be worried about, but I am a worrier, and I come from a long line of worriers. Mm-hmm. So thinking about the gift that you are giving these parents and these kids to let their brain rest, like it almost brings tears to my eyes, because I know how stressful, for lack of a better word, or just how exhausting worry can be. So that is just a gift that you're giving these families. Okay, so let's talk about the Student Resilience Toolbox. Tell us about that. Mm-hmm. Tell us, unpack that toolbox for us.
Unpack it. We know that as school counselors, when we go to conferences, the thing that we want and need and love is that we can take back on Monday morning things that we can use right away. And so that's what the toolbox really is. In the toolkit that I have for school counselors, we have that pre-post test. The Cohen self-perceived stress test is really, it's evidence-based, and it really is one of the best pre-post tests. It's a stress scale that students can rate their stress level. The thing that I like about it is that you can just use the whole thing really for middle and high schoolers, or you can just pull some questions out and use it as a pre-post for your elementary school students. And so also in the toolkit, there's tons of handouts that you can use with your stress group. One that I really like is the difference between good stress, bad stress, and toxic stress. Teaching the students those type of, because not all stress is bad, actually. Right. And so a lot of times they think I'm stressed, but it's actually, we need to define if it is good stress or bad stress.
Right. Because good stress could be you're driven mm-hmm. to do more or to achieve something that you've never achieved before. So that could be good. And so what's the difference between bad stress and toxic stress?
So bad stress, so you've got the good stress, like you said, that motivates you, like right before a test or before a performance, you feel a little stressed, but it helps you achieve. Mm-hmm. You've got bad stress that can kind of stop you in your tracks, but it's manageable. Toxic stress is that stress that's over time, that really wears you down and really stops you from being able to think, perform, and achieve.
Okay.
And it's really that toxic stress. We talk about those ACEs and trauma. that's where the toxic stress is going to come from.
Okay.
So, yeah. But continuing with the toolkit, other things that are in there are breathing exercises, all the instructions for teaching breathing, journaling, stretching, muscle relaxation, visual imagery. Also, there's one that I just love to read to the students about going to your happy place. You know, everybody has a happy place. Mine is at the beach. I'm from Florida. So, but, you know, kids will tell you after you do the visualization, well, I'll ask, where did you go? And some go to the mountains, some go, you know, fishing with their grandparents, or, you know, it's so nice to hear back from the students where their happy place is, but teaching them when you're really feeling overwhelmed, go to your happy place for a few minutes, breathe. And so let's see what else is in the toolkit. Instructions for the journals, the worry journal, instructions for a gratitude journal. Another activity that I do that's in the toolkit is the activity that what I can control and what's out of my control. We love that. Positive self-talk, positive affirmations, and teaching students about the importance of that. I also have calming jar, the recipe for how to make those calming jars in there. And then the feeling faces wheel and feeling charts. And then other things that you can give the students too are coping skills handouts. So that's one of the last things I give as they graduate from Stress Busters, is that coping skills handout with 100 different types of coping skills. And I ask the students, pick your top 5. Those are the 5 that your go-to coping skills that you're always going to use in practice. So lots in the toolkit.
That sounds like exactly what school counselors need any year, but especially this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can get overwhelming. There's so much out there, but I've really chosen the things that work well for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so why I put them in the toolkit, because I'm hoping that other school counselors will find them equally beneficial.
Yeah. So you do this as a small group?
This is a small group. Stress Busters, right, is a small group intervention, but a lot of the skills that we teach there also can be taught through all 3 tiers.
Yes.
You can talk about these in your classroom lessons at tier 1. I actually did when we came back at the beginning of the school year from remote learning, I did the 10 top stress busters for students. And each week I would go on the morning announcements and teach one more stress buster. And I went through a series of 10 for the students. So that's delivered to all students. That's tier 1. And then the small group is, you know, that tier 2, and then that tier 3, a lot of these interventions, things you can use with your individual counseling when students come in.
Yes, this is like fantastic. Every school counselor needs this. So tell us about the calm room at your school and in your counseling offices.
So last year, you know, we have this empty office that's kind of close to our counseling suite. And we piloted a calm room last year. I mean, I'll be honest, it was kind of this room where old furniture just kind of ended up in there. And my co-counselor and I started to use it as overflow for the counseling office. We both had in our counseling office, you know, like a table where students can sit and, you know, color, listen to some calming music. We had that calm corner. Mm-hmm. But we had our eye on that office over there. And we said, this would be a great calm room. So what I did was I wrote actually 2 grants that I won the money for, because that was one of the things that we needed to do. We needed to outfit the room. So that grant money really, really helped kick off the calm room. And what the calm room is really a place where students can have that emotional regulation. And so we know if we have a student in our calm space in our office, then if another student comes to visit us, if they're upset in crisis. Now we can't have both in our office at the same time. We needed another space. And this year we've had more individual sessions and more students asking to see the counselor than ever, as everybody has.
Right.
So, we needed that extra space. So we outfitted that room just made it a really calm, very soothing place. We had a big comfy couch that we covered and put nice pillows on the floor, soft lighting. And then lots of stations in the room we have fidgets, we have Play-Doh, we have art supplies, we have a CD player with some calm music. We actually have a laptop too set up with our virtual calm room on it. So students have a choice of activities when they go into the room. So like I said, last year we piloted it and we really had to work out some kinks with it.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing was teaching the students how to use the calm room. So the students come in to the counseling suite and they check in with the counselor. So we know that the student is going into the calm room. We have a timer there. Most students only need 5 or 10 minutes of regulation time. And then they check out with the counselor. We always want to make sure that they're okay to return back to class. And really teaching them how to use the room was key. And I'll tell you, after this year, I don't think we could ever do without a calm room anymore.
Wow.
We use it every single day.
I'll bet. We talked about how we did our coping skills class. And so I had 4 stations set up. And so ever since I've done that class, I've had students come in my office and ask if they can just sit and do their coping skill for 5 or 10 minutes, like you said. And so that's exactly I've been doing so much of that I can see where a calming room would be very beneficial to kind of catch those students. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't think that we could ever live without it now. It's just, and I can tell you administration loves it and the teachers love it and parents have loved it. They have even said they're so glad that there's a place that their child can go to for a few minutes instead of when they're experiencing stress, the first thing, I want to go home, call my parent, go home, please. This really keeps them in school and teaches them the skill to self-regulate. And now we're going to go back to class. And the teachers love it too, because they'd rather give 10 minutes than a whole class period of a student waiting to see the school counselor or, like I said, wanting to go home. So they're loving it as well.
That is very powerful, that statement that you just said about 10 minutes versus a whole class time. Very powerful. Well, you mentioned parents and how they have been grateful to you for what you're doing there at the school and then the class that you taught. And you recently wrote an article where you shared some tips and strategies for parents. So I love that. I love that you are seeing the school counseling role as a service to your students, but also to your community through with your parents. So share a few of those strategies with us, if you don't mind, and how that came about.
Yeah, well, we really do need parents' help too, with helping with so many of the strategies, because they're not only strategies to manage stress and anxiety at school, but even more importantly at home. Mm-hmm. So we really do need to partner with parents and also help give parents the strategies so they can help their children. So I wrote a stress busting tips for parents, and it's the top 10 tips that they can do to help support their child. Do you want me to go through the top 10?
Sure.
Okay. All right. So number 1 is exercise and get outside. So we know how important that is, especially through the pandemic, getting the kids away from the screens and getting them outside in fresh air. Stress buster tip number 2, let kids be problem solvers. Really empower them to be able to solve their own problems, of course, with that safety net out if they need us, but really empowering them because that also builds self-confidence when they realize they can solve their own problems. So that's number 2.
You're right. I heard somebody say, this was before I had kids, but they said our job as a parent is to work ourselves out of a job. And I thought, gosh, that hurts.
I love that.
But it's so true, because you have to, like you said, remove that safety net. And of course, we're always there, but that confidence builder of solving their own problems. And I mean, because that's what they're going to have to do in the future. Parents can't always just rush to solve their problems for them. So yeah, I love that.
All right. Number 3, combat negative thinking. As school counselors, we know we'll ask a student, tell us something positive about yourself or something that you're good at. And a lot of times it's crickets. Just can't come up with anything. But then if you ask them, well, what's something that you don't like about yourself? Oh, they're able to rattle off a whole list of things. So we really want to combat that negative thinking and really work on positive thinking and positive affirmations. So that's really powerful. That's number 3.
I love that.
This one, number 4, sleep well. Sleep is essential for well-being. So many times our kids today, they're not getting good quality sleep. They're not getting enough sleep. And a lot of times when a student comes into the office and they're really upset and they're crying, one of the first things I'll ask them is, well, how much sleep did you get last night? And so many times it's like, oh, I only got 2 or 3 hours. We just can't manage stress when we're exhausted.
No. And parents oftentimes think that their kids are sleeping. They'll think, oh, well, I put them in the bed at 8:30 or 9.
Right.
There's a TV in there or a video game or anything like that. They may not be shutting their eyes and actually go into sleep. So
that's right.
That's good to let the parents be aware of that.
Yep. Number 5, this kind of goes with that sleep, but limit time on social media. So very important. And like you said, a lot of times you think that they're sleeping, but they're actually on their phone on social media and not getting that quality sleep. And we know, we see the research coming out about social media, so, all things in moderation, but, students that are addicted to social media, it really does negatively impact their mental health. So we need to monitor that. Number 6, healthy diet and hydration, those basics. I'm guilty of not drinking enough water either, but, students being dehydrated, tired at school, complaining of a headache, stomachache, a lot of times is that they're just dehydrated. So
very true.
Number 7, talk it out with a trusted adult, right? So everybody needs someone that they can talk to, and making sure that our kids have someone that they can always talk to, an adult in their life. Very important. Number 8, we'll go back to that journaling, write it out. Journaling has been so impactful, and students just really find that tool very helpful. Number 9, practice deep breathing. I start every classroom lesson, every small group with deep breathing, and just really calming the body and calming the mind, and making that a habit when we're stressed to really breathe. And then the last one, make time for fun and connect with others. Especially, over the past 2 years, really reconnecting with friends and family, getting those kids away from the screen, having family game night, family dinners, getting back to those things are really important for our kids' mental health and well-being.
Definitely. That alone, those 10 points alone could have been a separate podcast, because those are huge and such a great gift to give parents, because we are thrown into this parenting role. And I mean, goodness, I remember the panic whenever I realized I'm responsible for this child. And this is like that guidebook that we always joke and say, well, there's no handbook for being a parent. Yes, there is. And you wrote it. And here it is. These are the 10 tips to being a parent. So that alone is worth listening to this podcast. But this whole episode has been, I know you call it the toolbox, but I would like to call it a treasure chest, because the things that you have given us today are so very valuable. And I can see them being game changers, not only for the students that use these things, but for the counselors who are juggling. Like Kim and I always talk about how it's like triage. You don't know what's going to walk in the door. You don't know what the day has in store for you, but the treasure chest that you have given us can cover so many of those things. So very valuable.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's definitely a passion of mine. Like I said, I wish I had had these skills growing up, and I love as a school counselor now being able to help all of our students, just learn these important skills.
Well, I would say that the state of Georgia and ASCA picked very well, because you are the total package. I mean, you do the things that hit the heart, but you back it up with the data. And that is rare. I was actually talking to Olivia Carter today about data and just some of the things that I have going on. And I just needed somebody to listen and process through some of this data with me. And we talked about how we can get so caught up in the data that we miss the school counseling heart. And you have managed to marry both of those together. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's next for you?
What is next? We are actually at Palmer. We're in our re-ramp year.
Okay.
So yeah, we're working on our ramp application that is due in October. We received our first ramp distinction back in 2018, and the years just have flown by. So we're re-ramping. And then for myself personally, I've just actually made the decision to go back and get my doctorate in school counseling supervision. And because I really do see down the road, I would love to teach at the college level and really help train and mentor the next generation of school counselors.
What a lucky bunch of students that will be. So I can see you doing that, and that I may go back through and get a second counseling degree just so I can sit in your class, because that would be, I mean, you've got the whole package. So that would be a great idea.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining us today. And we will link to your contact information and everything in our show notes so that our listeners can go into our show notes and figure out more about Barbara Truluck. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm really honored. And again, huge fan of your podcast, and just so happy to be here with you today.
Oh, thank you.
Well, once again, I was right. I told you to go forward without me, and it was going to be awesome. And it was. And what a needed subject, right?
I know. And did you think that I said anything stupid because I didn't have you? Whenever we do these podcasts together, a lot of times I'll start talking and I can look at you and I see your face.
And I will say, stop.
What are you talking about?
I know.
I didn't have that. So I was nervous the whole time.
Well, it shows. I mean, it wasn't your best, but it was hers. I feel like she was really on. And those stress busters, I mean, I think that would be great for, individual, and for small group. So.
Yes. And it's something that everybody needs right now. I mean, I could see even working it to where you give these to your staff as.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is really just a universal episode, really. This is something to share. This is stuff that can be done in the classroom. This is stuff that counselors can do. This is just
the best. Yeah. We love that. Absolutely.
So I do want you to meet her though, because meet her again. I do want you to talk to her.
She's here.
So come on out, Barbara. Come on out.
She's in there. We're going to have breakfast.
Yeah. But I don't know, maybe we can spend some time with her in Austin.
Yeah.
This summer.
Is she going to be
I didn't ask.
Okay. Well,
so
call her right now.
Barbara, if you are going to be in Austin, save a seat for us. There you go.
Very good.
All right, guys, we would like to remind you that you can rate and review our podcast. Those reviews help other people find us whenever they're looking for school counseling podcasts. We are school counselors current school counselors. So we're in the trenches with you. So our topics, we believe, fit what we're all going through right now. We know what it's like out there. So anyway, rate and review us so others can find us, and go join our Facebook group, follow us on Instagram, and sign up for our mailing list, because we've been sending out some freebies that you want to get your hands on. All right. Have a good week.